Hey, what's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maska, where we focus on helping guide you to have a business that produces consistent, positive cash flow. In doing so, you'll have a financially healthy business and be able to achieve your personal goals, which will allow you to sleep well at night. Today, I am super excited. We have with us Jeff McManus. Jeff and his team have been praised by the New York Times, Forbes, and the Huffington Post for their work in landscaping at Ole Miss, as well as Jeff's book, Growing Weeders into Leaders, that reveals the secret sauce in the recipe for their success. PGMS, Newsweek, Princeton Review, and USA Today all designated Ole Miss Landscape team worthy of national distinction, naming Ole Miss campus as the nation's most beautiful. As noted by Dan Cathy, chairman of the board with Chick-fil-A, Jeff reminds us that all leaders can be cultivated with the right pruning and nurturing. So that is Jeff McManus. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here, spending some of your time today. What's going on in Oxford, Mississippi today?
Hey, Paul, I'm so honored to be with you. It is a beautiful day. Everything is growing green. We don't want to stop growing because we will die, right? And so not only are there plants growing, but our people are growing. So it's exciting.
Love it. I am super excited for the conversation today. Everybody out there listening is doing their best to build an effective team, build a great culture, and get the most out of everybody, helping them reach their full potential. And in my opinion, you do it better than anybody, because I know there's plenty of business owners out there, plenty of leaders out there that just kind of throw in the towel and say, well, that's just the way it is. They're just landscapers, or they're just electricians, or they're just plumbers. But you truly go against the grain and have built a phenomenal organization, team, environment there. So how did your journey get started? How did you end up where you are today?
Well, we started off with the mindset of is we needed to be the best. We had a vision of where we wanted to go. We wanted to be one of the top in our niche. Uh, you add those things that our owner says about, oh, that's just the way it is. Well, we're also a government institution, so just add that to your mindset of, well, they're just government employees. We're not the most highest paid in the world. We don't always attract A players to all the time. Now, we've got some great ones, but we don't always attract them. And so you end up with this negativity or this expectation to go to the bottom. And so we had to change that mindset. And the leader who at the time who recruited me here, Dr. Robert Kayat, was a man who saw a better picture of what we needed to be. He saw the vision of being one of the best of the best. So he fired me up. He sold me on coming here. And the big reason I came to Ole Miss, I mean, I went to school at Auburn. I mean, we're rivals. So why would I go to Ole Miss? Well, this man was selling and he sold a vision. And I'm still fired up about it 24 years later of being one of the most beautiful campuses in America. We help change the world because we have beautiful campus that recruits people. 62% of people will decide in the first few minutes if they're coming to a college based on the landscaping and how the buildings look. So we wanted to be the best. We want to be on the top. And so we lined up with that vision. And then so that when I talk like that, it's like, how do I get our people to think like that? How do I get our people to be the top in our little niche, in our little world? And it takes being intentional. And we actually looked at a few companies to see how they were doing it so that we could emulate it and copy what they were doing.
Love it. And for those of you that have never heard of Jeff, Jeff runs the entire landscaping division, grounds, I think even like the airport at Ole Miss. Ironically, I have a client of mine who is based at Oxford, Mississippi, and he said, you should see what Jeff's team does on a football weekend. They've got 100,000, however many thousand people in the Grove Saturday. By Sunday morning, 10 a.m., it looks like nobody had been touched, nobody had been on the grass. There is not a speck of garbage in sight, and it looks like a phenomenal campus that way. When anybody walks on it, like Jeff said, they are always selling. And when someone sees that vision, just like your business, that's where they want to be. Whether, in Jeff's case, whether it's I want to work there or I want to go there. And it's no different with your customers out there, whether it's I want to do business with that person or I want to go work for that person. So let's dive into how you made that happen, because you're a government entity. You're probably not super high up on like the priorities of the people running a university. There's a lot of other things going on. You're probably not like, priority A, B, C, D, or E. So how did you get everybody rowing in the same direction to start building a team effectively and efficiently?
Well, Zig Ziglar, the former motivational speaker, had a great quote, and it affected me early on in life. He said, "You can get everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want." And so I had to constantly, and I still do this today, ask myself, what do our people want? Ask our people what they want, and really even read and researched on it. And really, there's three things that our people want. And this is true across the industry, and this is true across most organizations. I didn't make this up. This came from research from Daniel Pink's book, Drive. People want to be, they want to have purpose. They want to be masters of what they do, so mastery, and they want autonomy. They want some freedom in their job to be able to make some decisions. And we had to figure out how to do that, how we could build the trust, how we could incorporate that into our system of way of doing things. And I'm going to tell you, we maintain more campus than we ever have. They've added more, they've intensified the campus. People love what we're doing, and we haven't added a single person. And so we had to figure out how to do more with less. Thankfully, we have some good contractors around the town, and so we've been able to contract some of that out. But trying to get everybody on the same page, working to the high standards, right? And in the blue collar worker, you don't want them going, "Hey, what time's quitting time?" Although that's going to happen. You're wanting to go, "Hey, how do we really make this so that nobody has to go back and visit the site again? We get it right the first time, high quality, high results, meet the high expectations." So, one of the little things I'll just share, one of the little secrets that we learned from watching other companies was that we had to build a phenomenal training program. I mean, absolutely top of the line training program on state funding, which was not very, not really a lot. And so we saw that. We saw top companies do that. The Ritz, Disney, great companies who did that. The Army, they go through boot camp. They all have a process in which they train people. And so we had to train them in our high standards.
Love it. And for everybody listening out there, our goal with this show is to help you put more money in your pocket, help increase that cash flow. This is going to help you reduce turnover and hiring costs, because when you can pour into your people, like Ziegler said, like Jeff believes, your people are going to stay with you longer. They're going to be more effective. Clearly, they're way more productive because now you're taking care of more grounds than ever with the same or less people. So your budget, you're constrained by budget. You can't just go to them like, "Hey guys, if we just do this, we're going to bring in more revenue." It's not like a landscaping business out, in the business to consumer world where like, yeah, if we do this, we see direct results. Your direct results are so indirect of, well, admissions might be up and maybe that visit went really well. But at the end of the day, it's not as measurable other than how long are people staying here and how good are they actually delivering that service. And what do people want? They want purpose, they want mastery, they want autonomy. And a lot of times that's really hard to give people because we tell ourselves, we don't have time to train people. I'm just going to train them and they're going to leave, or they can't do it the way I want them to do it. So I'm not going to give them autonomy. What do you tell the naysayers out there that have that mindset and that mentality?
Well, I have it too. I fight it every day. I mean, my staff is recruited across campus to go work. I've got 4 people working in telecommunications right now that used to work for me because they know we have really good people. The city here has taken 2 or 3, maybe even 4 there too. I can't remember, but they're taking our employees, right? So what's the alternative? We don't train them and they stay. Come on now, really? We don't want that. And so I'd rather us can be continually hiring great people. And a lot of the ones that we've hired are staying and are now my supervisors. I have one now that's an assistant director who's my number 2 person who we trained and developed. And there's some of them are going to stay and you're going to build off that. But especially now is because our rates for pay are lower than our competition. Everybody around town's paying more than us, including the city. City's paying $3 more an hour than we are. And so why would you come work for us? Well, because there's something different. We're going to give you a sense of purpose. We're going to give you a lot of great customized training in our training program. And we're going to give you the freedom to make some decisions out in the field. We're going to teach you how to make those decisions. And you know what? As owners, And leaders, sometimes we overestimate what autonomy is. As a owner, business owner, we think autonomy is, well, I decide what I do all day. That's not necessarily what the employee's looking for. They want to be able to solve problems that they come across. They may be running routes and doing things, but they want to solve their own problems. That's when you're giving people autonomy.
That is so true. And there's a huge difference between that and just like, here's what you got to do, go figure it out. They still want the structure. They still want
Yes.
to be able to know how to do the job, and they want to know what their expectations are, but they want the feeling of, hey, Jeff trusts me and I can go do this job. When I'm done, he's going to be super proud of me. And I know if I get stuck, Jeff's there to help me, or whoever is there to help me, whoever's, I'm reporting to. So a lot of great insight there. And again, it just doesn't come down to money. Yes, people need to make money to live. They need to make money to pay their bills. But Jeff is a perfect example of there's a lot more that people want than money, especially with the next generation coming up. They want that purpose. They want to feel valued. They want to be appreciated. They want to be recognized, and they want to learn. They want to get better. And I believe Chick-fil-A does this very well as well. Is like they hire people with the intent of knowing my job is to help you get to where you want to go. And if you want to be a manager and an owner, I'll help you. If you just want to get into college and use this as a great stepping stool, I'll help you. If you want to use this to get really good at customer service and then go into a different industry, love it, because I want people that want to be here, and those people want to be there however long they might be there. So with that being said, you've taught, you've inspired, you've trained, you've coached a lot of different leaders in a lot of different industries. What are some of the common things you see that inspiring leaders and great leaders do a little bit differently than just the person with the title?
I think the number one factor that sets most great leaders apart is that they have some type of plan for personal growth. They either read, they're listening to podcasts, they're engaged in learning and growing. They're a student. They stay curious. I got to hang around with Dan Cathy a few years ago. He was CEO of Chick-fil-A. You know, he has done so much to innovate the quick service market. And one of the things I asked him, was, what is it, Dan, that you do to be so good? And he says, I stay curious. I ask a lot of questions. I don't ever want to be that person who knows it all. And that's a challenge when you're the most powerful person in the organization is, do you still stay curious? Even when you know the answer, do you stay curious?
And you mentioned at the very beginning of the show, we're either growing or we're dying. And the only way to keep growing is by staying curious, being learned, never getting content and never getting complacent of like, I know everything. I don't need to learn it. Even the best of the best, they're learning from people that have been to a place where they still want to go, so they can get there quicker with a lot less mistakes. And you do that by, obviously, as Jeff said, staying curious and always being willing to learn, read books, go to seminars, listen to podcasts, whatever it might be. So with that being said, as we become a leader, or we're even just within an organization, we have managers. A lot of times we feel like we need to please everybody. I'm sure you feel that every day. I know as people move up into leadership roles, or when we're dealing with customers, we feel like we have to keep everybody happy. How are we missing the mark on that, and how is that going to set us up for eventual failure?
Well, I am a people pleaser. I mean, I grew up I was the youngest of I had a brother and a sister, and I was a people pleaser. I was a follower. I was all these things, but I was also, God puts inside of each one of us, I believe, the ability to make decisions and do things on our own as well. Now, we may not like to be the first one, have to be the first one, but what we try to do is empower our people to think like a leader. Don't be a victim, but think like a leader. So I have to change my I guess my perception to my team is I got to let them participate in some of the decision-making process. Not everything, but I want to get some feedback from them. Now that slows me down, but what it does is it allows them to lean in to start making better decisions, and they take ownership of what some of the things we're doing. Let me give you a quick example. And I may not be hitting on exactly what you're asking here, but I had to get people to buy in and they would go out and mow, and there'd be a cup and some napkins out in the lawn, and they'd run over it with a mower. And they come back in. I say, the area looks, you mowed it great. It looks wonderful, but I got a question for you. How come you didn't pick up the cup and the napkin before you mowed it up to, dozens and thousands of pieces? Well, you didn't tell me to pick it up. It's like, hmm. Okay, so that's a victim mindset. You have to tell them everything. And I don't want that. I want them thinking on their own, growing on their own, developing, solving those problems. And that's a little thing, but empowering people to think like leaders, I have to do that for myself. I have to think like a leader. Okay, I'm going through, when you're going through those tough times, those are some of the best times to be seeking after wisdom and to be seeking after knowledge, for that higher meaning of what's going on here.
Yeah, and it's so true because if we get into if you want to call it the hamster wheel, the rat race of having to create a system for every little thing. If you see a wrapper, pick it up, and then all of a sudden they see a cup and they don't pick it up because the system said it's only a wrapper. So then you got to add a cup to it, and then all of a sudden you've got to add paper towel, and you just keep. Then it becomes, going back to your point originally, it doesn't give them autonomy because now they just feel micromanaged. It's like, well, now Jeff said we got to pick up wrappers too, and now we got to pick up cups. Whereas if you start to give them ownership and find out what makes them tick so they can become a leader, then they just start treating it like it's their own yard. It's like, well, would you run over a cup in your own yard? Probably not. You'd probably go pick it up before you cut the grass, or you'd get off the mower, pick it up, or you'd have one of those little clipper things and the claw and pick it up. So how do you start, and say you bring somebody in brand new, and in their mind they're just like, I'm just here to cut grass. I'm kind of a failure. School didn't work out for me, and I'm just going to be a landscaper. How do you start to change that person's mindset of, no, you're a leader and you have a really good opportunity in front of you?
Well, everything has to be intentional. We learned that watching Chick-fil-A. They're one of our models that we want to be like, because they hire 16 to 21 year olds to run a $20 billion company. That's 70% of their workforce. And so we saw how they were intentional in how they hired. We want to ask the right questions, get the people there that need to be there. Then once they come here, the very first day, we have a plan that they're going to go through, an orientation plan that they're going to go through. That's in our landscape university. That's our training program. And it is a process. Jeff does not have to run that process. It has freed up my time. There are videos in there. There are some handouts in there, but they're going to go through those, and it's going to be engaging. It's going to have our company policy. It's covering our bases 1 through 10, whatever those processes are. I can have peace of mind because I know those are checked off and done and completed. But in those videos, in those handouts, it's all about explaining the culture, who we really are, what we really do. We're not just cutting grass. We're not just pulling weeds. We're helping recruit the next people who are going to cure cancer. We're going to recruit the next person who's running NASA space program. And we've had those kind of students here. And so we want them to know that what we do is so much more. There's a bigger purpose to what we do. So as a leader, to answer your question, I have to be bought in. I have to be willing to know what we really do. If I'm working for a customer, on the outside world for a landscaper, who knows? That could be a doctor that does brain surgery or delivers babies. I'm going to create such a great environment so when they come home, they can rest. They can just be inspired. They can relax from that tension of the day. And they've got a yard that nobody has to touch. And it's just, today in technology where we all get frustrated because it doesn't work, they can walk outside and go, this is nice, right? And that's a big deal to create that for people.
And that's such a great example because no matter what we do in the world, whatever our occupation is, whatever our job is, whatever business, a lot of times we take for granted the impact we're actually making because to us, it's just another day. But to that person that had a terrible day at work, they pull in the driver and like, oh man, this is so nice. My yard is taken care of. And I am so excited now. My day has totally changed. Or that gives them their weekends back so they can go do other things, or it gives them their evenings back so they can go do research. Whatever their situation is, they hired you for a reason to buy that time back so they could go do something else. And when they come home and everything's done, it makes their day a lot better. So, starting to kind of wrap this up, Jeff, say we got listeners out there. I know we do. And they're like, I need this. I need to redo my culture. I need to put in that training. I need to start giving autonomy. I need to start painting this vision and selling the vision. And I need really just to overhaul my culture, but I don't know where to start. Where does somebody start where they've already got this machine that's going, it's heading in a direction, and they got to start redoing it on the fly and getting it to where they want to go?
I think there's two critical areas. You, as a leader, as the owner, like I'm not an owner here at Ole Miss. I'm in middle management, but I also have my own private company too. And so I'm the most powerful person, and I set the tone of the entire department or the company. I need to be in some type of personal growth. I need to be engaged in growing. If I'm not growing, I'm dying. Okay. If I'm living on past experiences, I'm living on what we used to do, what the vision was 20 years ago. I need to be fresh. That's one of the things I took away from Dan Cathy is he wasn't talking about yesterday's success. They were always pushing themselves. Chick-fil-A new goals, pushing themselves to be that better brand. How can they improve service? How can they improve engagement? And they never are content or relax. And so that starts though with the leader. That starts with the CEO. Second is you've got to be contagious. Somehow you've got to get your team involved in some type of personal growth. I'll give you one crazy example that I did a couple of years ago. I've done it twice now. Is I actually, I'll give you two. I do a quick little leader to leader program where for 30 minutes we will come into our shop, or actually before we go back out after break, and we will just do a leadership topic on a video. We'll watch somebody, and then my job is to get our team to engage and talk about it. I want them to have higher thoughts. I want to take them to a new elevation. A lot of these guys have never listened to a John Maxwell or a Les Brown or whoever that leader may be, and I'm going to expose them to that. The second part of that is in that little, I do that leader to leader, is the second craziest thing I did was I took them to the local library and showed them how to check out books, how to check out audio books. And I'm telling you, it didn't take with everybody, but some of my most challenging employees started listening to audiobooks. I had one of my most challenging, and I'm using that word very, very kindly, started listening to Phil Jackson on audiobooks. Well, you know who Phil Jackson is, right, Paul?
Yep.
Who is he?
He's the greatest coach in the NBA history.
Because he coached the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan,
He
right?
sure did. And then you got Kobe
That's
and
right.
Shaq.
So guess who now is coaching one of my most challenging employees? Phil Jackson. He's listening to Phil Jackson, man.
Gotcha.
And so his life, I started seeing him change. He started taking responsibility. He started being a leader. He's one of my best mentors now. And so personal growth, never underestimate what the little bit of audio that you may share with your people. I have an Apple TV in my break room, and during breaks or during our meetings, I'll throw up some type of 1 minute Instagram motivation just to talk about it, to help change the mindset of where we're going, what we're doing, get us out of that day-to-day grind, get us out of that day-to-day task-oriented list that we all have to do, is to sort of inspire and motivate to where we're going.
Love it, Jeff. That is phenomenal. And I love it. There's so much value in everything that you have said in the last 25 minutes. As we start to close, most people ask, like, hey, what's one book that we can read? What's one thing that we can do? We want our listeners to take immediate action within the next 24 hours just to get that momentum rolling, just to start the process, in this case, of building better culture, being a better leader. Out of all the things that you've talked about, all the things you've done in your career, what's one thing that our listener can do within the next 24 hours to start to move their business, their culture, their leadership forward?
If they're not already doing it, download an audio book that they will actually listen to. Okay. Whether it's Extreme Ownership, which is a great book, or if it's John Maxwell's, anything by John Maxwell, or if it's anything by Ken Blanchard, or there's something that challenges you as a leader that you can share those nuggets. Once you have those nuggets, you want to make them available to your team because they're going to listen to you because you're their team leader and they will listen to you, usually because you sign the front of the check and they sign the back of the check. So they're going to listen to you. But if you'll put it in you, if you'll take it, you'll be a much better leader and can share it.
Love it. Starts at the top. To be a better leader, all leaders are readers. And for everybody that says they don't have time for that, Jeff's advice is that's it. That's what it is. Go listen to an audiobook. I would guess most of our listeners out there, you're probably still running around more than you would like. You're in the truck, driving around, checking on your guys, picking up stuff, going to supply houses, whatever it is. That's plenty of time to listen to audiobook. As you start to listen to it, put it on 1.25 speed, 1.5 speed, and you can consume this content. And then when you get to the shop, share it. Even if you're listening on your drive-in, share a nugget. Hey guys, this is what I was listening to today. I think it'll really help you have a better day, whatever it is. Some great insight advice from Jeff McManus. Thank you again for coming on the show today, sharing your journey and providing a ton of actionable advice for all our blue collar business owners out there as we continue on this journey to prosperity, which is only possible by being the best leader that you can be. By doing that, everybody else on your team will start to follow. I am confident this will help everyone out there get one step closer to achieving your personal and professional goals. Jeff, before we sign off though, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you and learn all about the great things you do in the leadership world?
Well, I have a website, jeffmcmanus.com, and I also am on LinkedIn. Either one of those places are easy to connect with me.
Perfect, guys. Go there, jeffmcmanus.com. It's McManus. Jeff is like one of the most successful guys out there. Send him a message, send him an email. He or his assistant will respond very quickly. And if you get a chance, go to Ole Miss and check out that campus. Jeff, thanks again for coming on the show today. Really appreciate your time and expertise.
Paul, thanks for what you're doing. Thank you.
And before you head out, if you are ready to have a business that produces consistent positive cash flow so that you can have a financially healthy business and achieve your personal goals, let's make it happen. Head on over to thebluecollaradvisors.com/call to book a free financial assessment of your business. I will dive into the financials of your business, take a look at what's going on, find any red flags as well as opportunities that you have in your business. Let's make it happen. Again, thebluecollaradvisors.com/call. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. If you're ready for different results, it's time to start doing things differently.